want you to picture a very specific scene.
Okay.
It's probably happening right now in a lawyer's office somewhere, or maybe just a quiet suburban kitchen.
Yeah, I can picture that.
You have a husband standing there, and he looks like he has just been hit by a freight train. He is completely shell-shocked.
Just devastated.
Right. And he's telling his friends or his attorney or literally anyone who will listen that he had absolutely no idea this was coming.
Like a bomb dropping out of a clear blue sky.
Exactly. To him, they were fine. I mean, maybe they were a little bored or, kind of distant, but fine.
And then you look across the room at the wife.
Right. And that is the image that really sticks with you. Because she isn't hysterical. She's not crying or throwing things.
She's just calm.
Chillingly calm. Looking at him with zero emotion whatsoever.
Because to the husband, this is the end of the world.
But to the wife, it's just the final scene of a movie she's been starring in, all by herself for the last 10 years.
It is a massive disconnect. And that specific disconnect is exactly what we're unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into a phenomenon that is basically breaking marriages apart with what looks like surgical precision.
People often call it Walkaway Wife Syndrome.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to pause right here and set the table for you listening. This is not going to be a comfortable conversation.
Definitely not.
If you're listening to this and you're thinking, hey, my relationship is totally fine, we never fight.
You might actually be in the danger zone.
You might be in the danger zone and not even know it. Because we are not doing a whole he said, she said thing today.
Yeah.
We're not interested in victim narratives.
No, we're interested in the mechanics. We want to look at the actual structural failure of a marriage.
Exactly. We are autopsying the sudden divorce. And to do that, we've pulled a really extensive stack of sources.
Ranging from the clinical to the brutally honest.
Right. We have data from the American Sociological Association. We have legal breakdowns from places like LegalZoom and McGill Law.
And clinical perspectives from psychologists like Dr. Joshua Klapow.
But we didn't just stay in the academic realm. We went straight to the ground level, too. We pulled raw, unfiltered threads from Reddit communities.
Specifically, the bar dating over 50 and Rask women over 50 subreddits.
And I am so glad we included those Reddit threads, because the clinical data tells us that the divorce happened.
Right. The numbers are the numbers.
But the Reddit threads tell us what the silence felt like in the bedroom 3 years before the papers were even signed.
Which is where the real story is.
So our mission today is to explain why silence in a marriage is infinitely more dangerous than screaming.
We're going to look at what we call the illusion of suddenness, breaking down the data that proves this is rarely an impulsive decision.
And then we'll get into death by 1,000 cuts, focusing on this concept of emotional labor.
Which is a term people use constantly but almost always misunderstand.
Completely. Then we have to talk about the point of no return. That very specific moment the wife stops fighting and starts planning.
And finally, the too late rescue attempts.
Right. The tragic phenomenon of the husband who suddenly tries to fix everything and why that effort almost always backfires.
So let's start with the numbers.
Let's do it, because numbers don't have feelings, and these numbers are incredibly stark.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the 70% statistic.
This is really the anchor for this whole deep dive. According to the American Sociological Association, women initiate nearly 70% of all divorces in the United States.
70%.
Yeah. And if you narrow that demographic down to college-educated women, the number jumps even higher.
It gets closer to 90% in some of those data sets.
Which is just a staggering majority.
It is. And I think the knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people is to blame the modern era. Right? You hear people say, oh, well, it's 2024 and feminism ruined the nuclear family.
Or no one wants to actually work at a relationship anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you look at the source material, this isn't some new trend, is it?
Not at all. That's the fascinating part of the data. This trend holds steady going all the way back to the 1940s.
The 1940s.
Yeah. For 80 years, women have consistently been the ones pulling the plug. So we have to completely move past this idea that it's a new, woke cultural phenomenon.
It's entirely structural.
It is.
And yet, despite an 80-year statistical trend, we still have this pervasive cultural narrative that men leave for younger women or that couples just vaguely drift apart.
But the reality is much sharper. The wife is the one saying, I am done.
Now, the sources we looked at uses a few different terms for this. Walkaway wife is the most popular one,
Hmm.
but you also see neglected wife syndrome or sudden divorce syndrome
And sudden divorce syndrome is the one that really grinds my gears. It is such a dangerous misnomer.
because it implies impulsivity, like she just woke up on a random Tuesday and decided to pack her bags.
Exactly. It frames the entire event exclusively through the eyes of the person being left, the
Yep.
husband.
Right.
Dr. Kleppo, the psychologist from our sources, really emphasizes this point. He says this is only sudden to one person.
To the husband, there's a car crash she never saw coming.
But to the wife, it's glacial. It is the slowest thing that has ever happened to her.
So let's try to understand that shock from his side. Why is the husband so incredibly blind to this?
Mhm.
We read about this. No news is good news fallacy in the sources.
Yeah, and it really is that simple for a lot of guys.
That men just assume silence equals happiness.
Well, it's a very common male framework for relationship maintenance. And I say this not to generalize all men, but to look at the actual patterns in the data.
Sure.
For a lot of men, relationship health operates like a binary switch. Is there conflict? No. Is there screaming? No.
Is dinner on the table?
Yes. Therefore, the system is functioning perfectly.
So it's like a car engine for them.
Right.
If the check engine light isn't actively flashing red, the car is totally fine.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But the wife does not operate on a binary switch. She operates on a continuum of connection.
Which is completely different.
So while he's sitting there thinking, hey, we haven't fought in 6 months, we're doing great.
She is thinking we haven't truly connected in 6 months, we are actively dying.
And this creates that massive disconnect in timelines that is honestly just tragic.
The sources describe this so vividly. The husband's timeline of the divorce starts the exact day she hands him the papers.
That is day 1 of the crisis for him. He instantly enters emergency mode.
But for the wife, day 1 was 5 years ago.
Dr. Kleppo points out that by the time those papers are served, all the emotional processing is already finished.
Right. The grieving, the crying alone in the shower, the bargaining with herself,
She did all of that while lying in bed right next to him.
the physical departure, the actual moving of the boxes.
Yeah.
That's just administrative at that point,
It's just paperwork.
which is a terrifying thought. That you could be lying next to someone every single night who's already divorced you in their head.
The sources mention that this stable facade the husband sees isn't peace, it's rigor mortis.
It's the calm of a graveyard.
The relationship has been dead for years, the body just hasn't hit the floor yet.
So how does a marriage actually die like that? How do you get to rigor mortis without a single massive blowout fight?
That leads us right into part 2, death by 1,000 cuts.
We need to talk about the knife. We need to talk about emotional labor.
This is a term that gets thrown around on social media constantly, and usually it's used completely incorrectly.
Oh, absolutely. People think emotional labor means doing the dishes or changing a diaper.
Right.
I see that all the time.
Yeah.
Someone will say he doesn't do any emotional labor because I had to take out the trash this week.
But the source we have from Evergreen Therapeutics defines it much more strictly. It is not the physical task itself.
It's the management of the task.
Exactly. It's the cognitive load. It's the fundamental difference between being the project manager and being the intern.
Let's break that dynamic down because I think this is where the resentment really festers in these marriages, in this manager versus employee dynamic. The husband often genuinely thinks he's being a great partner because he's perfectly willing to execute tasks.
He'll say, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Right, and he thinks that's a loving offer. He thinks, look at me, I'm at your service.
But what he doesn't understand is that telling him what to do is work.
It's management.
If you have to tell me to take out the trash, you are carrying the mental responsibility of monitoring the trash status.
Plus the management labor of delegating it to him.
Plus the social labor of asking nicely so I don't feel like I'm being nagged.
So the wife is the CEO of the household and he's just the intern waiting for a memo to drop on his desk.
And here is the real kicker, the part that completely destroys intimacy.
Yeah.
You cannot be sexually attracted to your intern.
Oh, wow.
It's true. You cannot feel safe and provided for by someone that you constantly have to micromanage. It absolutely kills the polarity in the relationship.
The source from Evergreen Therapeutics lists the toll of this labor. It's managing emotions, anticipating needs, maintaining relational harmony, noticing tension, mediating conflicts, remembering birthdays.
It's all the invisible work.
And the impact of all that invisible work is severe burnout. It's not just, I'm tired of doing laundry. It's, I'm tired of being the only person in this house who notices that we are out of detergent.
It creates this deep, profound sense of being unseen.
There's a clear progression here from the mediation first source that traces exactly how this burnout happens.
Right. It isn't instant. It's a very predictable four-stage cycle.
Stage 1 is the request.
Hey, could you help me with this? It's polite, it's hopeful, they're just trying to connect.
But then it moves to stage 2, which is the complaint.
You never listen to me, you never help me out. The tone definitively shifts here.
And then stage 3, nagging.
And this is exactly where the husband usually just tunes out entirely. He hears the same noise over and over, and he meets it with pure defensiveness.
I said I'd get to it. Why are you always on my case?
He views the nagging as the actual problem.
But the nagging isn't the problem. The nagging is just a symptom of the initial request being completely ignored.
But then comes stage 4, and this is the most dangerous stage of all. Resignation.
The silence. She just stops asking.
Completely.
This is where we need to bring in those voices from the void. These Reddit threads from Door Dating Over 50 and Rask Women Over 50 are honestly heartbreaking because they humanize this resignation phase so clearly.
They really do.
We have a user named Cinderella Boots. Listen to how she describes her experience. She talks about being a broken shell after 12 years of heavy emotional lifting with what she calls a covert narcissist. She says, I didn't realize until I was a broken shell.
That imagery is just so visceral. A shell implies something that was once alive and protecting something soft inside.
And now it's just cracked and completely empty.
And then there's user Tossetinthrone file. She wrote about feeling unseen and stifled, even though she says the days were technically, quote-unquote, okay.
That word okay is doing so much heavy lifting in that sentence.
That's the blindside trap all over again. The days were okay for him because there was no active fighting.
But she was stifled.
She mentions specifically the sheer exhaustion of managing an adult.
There's a very specific nuance in these threads about the parenting a spouse factor. And it really is the ultimate libido killer.
Nothing kills romance faster.
When a woman feels like she is mothering her husband, reminding him to make his dentist appointment, finding his keys, telling him to pick up his socks from the floor, she stops seeing him as a grown man.
She just sees another child in the house.
And you don't sleep with your children.
You absolutely don't, and eventually you leave the nest. Or you kick the kid out.
Now, we did see one Reddit thread where a man left a dead bedroom marriage, but the core theme really pivots back to our main topic. The sheer exhaustion of trying to change a partner who simply refuses to engage until it's way too late.
Which leads us directly into part 3, the point of no return.
This is the absolute pivotal moment of our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the shift. The moment that silence stops being peace becomes an active exit plan.
This is the red alert for every person listening. If your partner has been complaining for years about a lack of connection or needing help around the house or intimacy, and suddenly overnight she just stops, do not celebrate.
Do not pop the champagne. Do not think, oh, thank God she is finally off my back.
You should be terrified. Because that silence means she has officially stopped believing that you are capable of change.
She has stopped investing any energy into the relationship.
The source on emotional disengagement in marriage highlights that she is now processing the separation entirely internally.
And this is where it gets incredibly cold and strategic. The sources talk about the long game.
It turns out women will very often plan their exit around specific milestones.
It is rarely impulsive. It's a roadmap. I'll leave when the last kid goes to college, or I'll leave when I get that promotion at work.
Psychology Today references this explicitly. The quote is, I'll leave when the kids leave home or once I can support myself.
It can be a 2, 3, or even a 5-year plan.
And during those 5 years, she is actively playing the role of the wife. She's cooking dinner, she's smiling at family photos.
But she's already gone. She is effectively an undercover agent operating inside her own marriage.
The sources from LegalZoom actually give us a concrete checklist of behavioral shifts. These are the specific warning signs that the exit plan is already in motion.
Number 1 on that list, independent life.
Right. Taking up new hobbies completely alone, joining a gym, focusing heavily on her appearance.
And men often misinterpret this too.
Always. They think, oh, good for her, she's getting fit. Or, hey, she's looking great for me.
No. She is preparing for the market.
She is building a completely separate life that does not include you so that when she finally pulls the trigger, she doesn't lose her identity.
Number 2 is financial separation.
This is a huge one. Secretly building a nest egg, physically separating finances, asking pointed questions about bank accounts or investments she never cared about before.
Or she's just calculating the sheer math of survival.
We have a Reddit user whose account was deleted who laid this out with brutal honesty. She talked about the distinct calculation of financial dependency versus freedom.
She lived a 39-year marriage.
39 years.
Her husband was actually financially dependent on her, so it cost her significant money to leave him.
She has to pay him alimony.
And her quote was, "I smile every time that check leaves my account."
I smile every time that check leaves my account. Just think about that for a second. The value of her freedom is exponentially higher than the value of her money.
She would rather be much poorer and completely free than richer and stifled.
That is a staggering indictment of the relationship she was living in.
And the third sign from LegalZoom, emotional divestment. She stops fighting, she stops asking for sex, and she stops sharing her day.
That is the saddest part to me. She starts confiding in her friends instead. Or she confides in her sister.
But the husband just gets the weather report.
He gets pure logistics. Pick up milk on your way home. He doesn't get access to her inner world anymore. He's essentially just a roommate she shares a utility bill with.
We saw another user, Lady Tatterdemalion, who completely agreed with this exit plan approach. It's so methodical.
So the plan is executed. The milestones are met. She finally drops the bomb. I want a divorce.
And now we enter part 4, the too late rescue attempts. The husband is sitting there in absolute shock. And what does he do?
He initiates what you call the dishwasher phenomenon.
The dishwasher phenomena. It's this frantic, manic burst of sudden effort. He is devastated. He's crying.
And suddenly overnight, he is super husband.
Right. He is washing the dishes without ever being asked. He is buying flowers on a random Tuesday.
He is suddenly booking all the therapy appointments he point blank refused to go to for 10 years.
He suddenly wants to sit down and talk for hours about their feelings.
And honestly, looking at it from his perspective, it is genuinely tragic. He actually thinks this is how he saves his marriage.
He thinks, look at me, I'm doing all the things, I'm changing.
But the sources, specifically Psychology Today, tell us that this doesn't save the marriage at all. It actually enrages the wife.
It pushes her even further away.
Why does it do that?
It's what the source calls the proof of concept insult. That is really the only way to describe it.
When he suddenly starts doing all the things she begged him to do for 20 years, he is providing undeniable proof that he was always capable of doing them.
Exactly. He didn't lack the ability. He didn't lack the time.
He lacked the care.
So by fixing the problem now, when he's threatened, he is proving he could have fixed it 10 years ago.
He's proving that her pain, her crying, her begging was never enough to motivate him.
But his discomfort, the threat of his life falling apart, that motivated him instantly.
So it just confirms to her that he is fundamentally selfish. He only changes when he is the one who is suffering.
That is an absolute dagger.
Yeah.
The message is you didn't do it for me, you're doing it to save yourself.
And on top of that, it feels deeply intrusive. She has spent years meticulously building a wall to protect herself from the constant rejection of his indifference.
And now he's just banging on the wall, demanding to be let in, demanding intimacy, demanding another chance.
It feels like harassment at that stage.
She has absolutely no emotional fuel left. The tank is bone dry. The sources talk about this profound energy deficit. She literally cannot try again.
The very idea of trying again just makes her exhausted.
Because it's not about the dishes, is it?
No, it's never about the dishes. The dishes are just a symbol of the years of complete dismissal.
Every single time he stepped over a pile of laundry she asked him to move, she was sending a very clear message.
My time is more valuable than your request.
And you cannot undo 20 years of that specific message with 1 week of emptying the dishwasher.
It is the ultimate tragedy of the man realizing the stakes only when the house is already fully engulfed in flames. He's standing there with a little garden hose trying to spray the inferno, and she's already in the car driving away.
So she drives away, the divorce actually happens, and we move to part 5. The aftermath and no regrets.
What actually happens to these women once they leave?
Well, society loves to tell us that divorced women over 50 end up as lonely cat ladies who die alone. We have this huge spinster myth.
But the data says the exact opposite. Now we do have to be real about the cost. The sources are very clear that women often face a significant decrease in income post-divorce. They are statistically at a much higher risk of falling below the poverty line.
The financial reality is incredibly harsh. There is a real cost.
And this is a massive, but research shows women tend to have greater overall life satisfaction after divorce than men do.
Even with less money. It's the quality of life flip.
It comes right back to that Reddit user who smiles every time she pays alimony.
The choir of no regrets on these forums is so loud you can't ignore it. It is an uncomfortable truth for a lot of people to hear, but these women are happier.
Let's hear from some of them. User Applebottom Jenna75. She left what she called a barely oaked marriage.
Not an abusive one, not a terrible one, just barely okay.
And now she says she is giddy goat happy.
Giddy go.
Her quote is not one single regret only joy.
That is the energy of someone who has literally been released from a cage.
And then user Moles911, financially set back, she took the hit, but she says no regrets.
And user own objects 6696. This one is really interesting because she never even expected to remarry. She was perfectly content being single. She found happiness in her own company.
That is a recurring theme in the data. These women aren't leaving to find another man.
They are leaving to find themselves.
They aren't leaving for a better relationship. They're leaving for no relationship.
Wow.
Because no relationship is significantly better than a bad one.
When you look across all the sources, they really only identify one common regret among these women.
And it is not, I miss him. It's not, I made a terrible mistake.
It's, I should have done it sooner.
Which brings us to the ice cream metaphor from the source material.
I love this one.
One woman wrote, I had one flavor of ice cream my whole life and want to try a few different ones.
It sounds a little frivolous at first, but it's actually incredibly profound.
If you have been managing an adult toddler for 30 years, the idea of just tasting life again.
Whether that's dating or travel or honestly just sitting in a quiet house where no one is asking you where their socks are.
That is the ice cream.
So let's bring this home. Let's synthesize what we've learned today from all these sources. We are looking at a tragedy of mismatched timelines.
We have one person, usually the husband, who genuinely thinks he is in a content-stable marriage simply because there is no active screaming.
And we have another person, usually the wife, who is slowly dying inside from 1,000 tiny cuts of indifference and emotional neglect.
The warning for you listening is crystal clear.
If you are in a relationship where the complaints have suddenly stopped, if your wife used to nag you about the gym or helping around the house or spending time together, and now she is just silent and completely focused on her own hobbies,
Do not celebrate.
worry deeply. Because that silence is not peace.
It is the sound of her packing her bags emotionally.
Prevention isn't about grand gestures at the buzzer. It is not about buying the flowers the day she hands you the divorce papers.
It is about consistent emotional presence. It's about being an equal adult partner, not an employee waiting around for instructions.
It's about noticing the invisible work she does and sharing that cognitive load before she completely collapses under it.
We are going to leave you with a final thought today.
A provocation straight from the source material that really sums up this entire demographic and phenomenon. It's a hard truth, but it is the ultimate truth of the walkaway wife.
Divorce at 50 isn't the end of love. It's the end of patience.
Think about that. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.